Hey gang, so CIG has dropped the latest numbers on us for their roadmap, and as usual I'm going to go ahead and do a talk through on it. For those of you who are new, following the link in from Reddit, if you are a longtime fan of my roadmap in graph form, I've been doing this for a little over a year. I basically started during the pandemic, where I go through do what a lot of content creators do with the roadmap roundup, just kind of read through that, then look at the release view for some context. And then the real meat of this is I actually go through the progress tracker kind of step by step. Usually I have some sort of a theme when I'm talking on the progress tracker, either focusing on ships or something like that. This time I'm mostly going to focus on what was talked about at CitCon, where I think it'll fall in there, and some interesting omissions from CitCon that we haven't heard about, but I would expect to hear about in the very near future. So if that sounds interesting, let's get this. Okay, so I like to always start this out with a couple caveats. The first one is that the information I have, unlike some of the big content creators like Board or Noobifier or any of those guys, I don't have contacts at CIG. I don't have friends that work there, unfortunately. Although I would like to, so call me. Anyway, I don't have any insider information. The information I have is the information that is available on their website. Things I've heard just chatted around everywhere. So with that said, I am just a dude on the internet. This is giving my opinion. If CIG says something that contradicts what I'm saying, CIG is probably right, since they are the source of the information. So that's caveat number one. Caveat number two has to deal with the progress tracker itself. Just because something is 100% complete on here, or appears to be 100% complete, this is just a measure of the planned sprints they have. And you can see most everything is ending right around the end of December, and that's because that's as far as those sprints are planned. And what that means is things like additional derelict settlements here will almost certainly have more work done on it for the next year and coming years, and I'll kind of get into that when I talk about that particular deliverable. Likewise, there are things that could already be in our hands that CIG is still polishing, and there's a couple examples of that. Not sure if I'll go into them on this list, but just be aware that something can be complete and still being polished. Things could be finished and still have a lot more work to do. With that said, let's get into the roadmap roundup. So I usually skip this first part. Notable changes for November 29th, 2023. Release view. The following cards have passed their final review. Therefore, we are toggling their status to committed. This is not as big a deal as it used to be. Nowadays, when something goes on the roadmap, it is practically guaranteed to be in the patch. It used to be, not even a couple years ago, things would show up on the release view and then be gone in a month. It would be like big things like, this game loop, you've been waiting for 10 years, and it's gone. Nowadays, if they put something on the release view, it's almost guaranteed to make it into that patch. And that was kind of the shift with the staggered development and Aaron Roberts sort of taking over this, from what I understand. Aaron Roberts is kind of known for getting games out the door, which is why they kind of put him in charge. And I have a feeling that that is kind of why things have picked up their pace a little bit and kind of focused in a little bit. CR is extremely good at the vision part of things. He's not so good at the project management things. Aaron is very good at the project management things. Anyway, let's go into what's on here. So, new derelict settlements. Settlements with both gameplay and social elements spread throughout the Stanton Wilderness using the Rastar tool. So, that's significant, especially that social elements part. One of the things I was worried about was that they'd roll out all these really cool derelict settlements, and it would be like Ghost Hollow, where the only reason you go there is to shoot a bunch of NPCs that are spinning in circles, or in the current patch, spawning in the ground. But it sounds like with the social elements, it would be awesome if they did the thing. I can't remember which game it was. It might have been Privateer, but I might be conflating it with the old Mech Warrior game that came out around the same time, where you could go and get missions from like the bartender, or they'd give you rumors. Sometimes they'd pan out, sometimes they wouldn't. Like, I heard there was a shootout in blah 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 blah, and you'd go to blah 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 blah, and there would be a wreck or something. Would be cool. Arena Commander, new map, Bloodshot Ridge. Bloodshot Ridge sounds like a place that you'd go to shoot NPCs. Just saying. One of Stanton's new derelict settlements joins Arena Commander for all FPS modes and all flight modes, excluding Classic Race and Pirate Swarm, which makes sense. That's kind of cool. I'm all for them putting those things in Arena Commander and making more use of it. One of the things I was hoping they would do, and I have a video that I'll put in the up above parts up there, where I talked about what I thought the new player experience should be. But it's good they're using Arena Commander. I wish they would utilize it more. New map, Maker's Point. A rough and stormy settlement on Hurston. Maker's Point makes its way to all FPS modes in Arena Commander. Cool. Multi-crew and spawn locations. Huge. Updating all maps to utilize the spawn location system for spawn selection. This update also enables the long-awaited introduction of multi-crew to Squadron Battle, Pirate Swarm, Vandal Swarm, Team Tank Battle, and Free Flight. One thing I want to say about multi-crew, and I was going to save this for later, but now I'm thinking about it, so you get it now. Bonus time. Multi-crew, it's very cool they're rolling it into Arena Commander to test right now. One thing I hope multi-crew comes with is the ability to log off and log back on either somebody that's a friend or someone that's an org mate ship, because that's really one of the sort of blockers right now. If I log in with my org, the Carnival, and we're all doing something and then we log off for the night, either we'll go back to our home port because we logged out on a ship that isn't ours, or I guess we die. But it would be a huge improvement if, and I think that it would sort of push the idea that people should be working together on these ships. If you could log out on a ship, log back on a ship, even if the owner wasn't there, you would still be able to log back onto the ship. And there's some problems with that, but better to hammer them out now. Anyway. The following card has been added to the release view, the Gatoxulian. Pretty cool little ship. Building, implementing, and balancing Gatox starter ship, the Sulian, as a game-ready vehicle. It is quirky and weird and way too big for what it needs to do, but it's also very maneuverable and has a huge quantum tank. Like, it can... I was flying around the system the other day and I was expecting to be refueling a lot. And I mean, I think I went back and forth across Stanton like 3 or 4 times and it only used a quarter of the tank. So long range ship. It'll be real useful in Pyro. Progress tracker. The following deliverable, previously marked as unannounced, has been revealed on the progress tracker. Gatoxulian. Building, implementing, balancing Gatox starter ship. The Cillian is a green rifle. There we go. So that's it for the roadmap roundup, guys. Pretty much the release view just kind of goes through and confirms this sort of stuff. So we've got the A1 Spirit, we've got the C1 Spirit. The tractor beam, it starts on the dorsal, but when you deploy it, it comes back down right above the cargo bay, so you can grab stuff and kind of throw it into the cargo bay, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure why it starts on the dorsal bay. I haven't been able to get it to work up there, so it sort of seems that it should just be sitting down here, but maybe that's just me. Tumbrel Storm, and of course they released the, oh, they don't have it on here. They released the AA version of the Storm too. Pretty sure it was on there. Not there, but yeah, maybe they're just considering both of them this. The Argo SRV, of course, is out now. I have a couple things that I'm going to do with my org, hopefully on either Friday or Saturday, so I'll probably release the video on Monday. If it works out. If it doesn't, you will never hear about this again. But I have a couple ideas for what we could do with the Argo SRV to kind of enhance some gameplay. Drake Cutter Scout, that one's out. In theory, I don't put a ton of faith into Pipeline, but sometimes they're right, and it seems like they're right about a couple things. But one of the things that they were saying was that there's the Drake Cutter Scout and the Drake Cutter, I guess it was an Expedition version, and we haven't seen the Expedition version. I was expecting to see that at CitCon. I think instead we'll probably see it for 322 later in December, which, God, should only be like a couple weeks away at this point. Gatoxilian, already said everything I need to on that. Cortec Replication Layer Update. That is so huge. I don't know why it's tentative, though. That's weird. That's weird that that's tentative, because the next patch we're getting is not 3.21.2. We're going to get 3.2.2. So this should probably be moved over here. Oh, well, oversight. Player hair update. So somebody posted this on Reddit. I thought it was kind of funny. Hang on. Let me call this up. So here we go. Let's roll this back. So this is the new hair that they're going to be showing off. I love the way that she kind of slow blinks at you like, dude, could you stop spaying me? I'm going to get sick. But that is cool. Look at that hair. Sounds kind of stupid, but I'm hard-pressed thinking about another game that has hair that looks like that. So that was posted by Shadow Realmed Citizen. Good grab, guy. The reason that I wanted to show it on Reddit and not like the straight video is because I am Evocati. So, yeah, I can't leak stuff, but if somebody else is posted in a public space, it's no longer a leak that I'm responsible for. But anyway, new hair looks amazing. New derelict settlements. Apparently we're getting at least 4 of them. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more hidden out there. I'm just really hoping that they have settlements. Oh, this is what I was going to say. For social aspects, I'm hoping they have ones that act more like towns. So it would be like going to a town in Skyrim. Very rarely when you went to a town in Skyrim would you just go for full murder hobo. Even if it was like 1 or 2 houses, you could go in there, you could trade, you could get a room for the night. I'm hoping that's what some of these derelict settlements are. If they're not, kind of a missed opportunity, but I'm sure they'll get there eventually. Gameplay. Salvage structural. So they've been calling this, or at least I think they've been calling this, vehicle munching for a long time. So I don't know why they switched it to structural, unless structural is like an interim step to vehicle munching. We don't quite know yet. I assume they're going to be talking about it pretty soon. But we'll find out. I mean, it's 322, so it's 2 weeks away. So hopefully we hear about it at some point. Inventory, it is tentative. Another one that's tentative is cargo containers. So what these are, we have the cargo containers in the game. These are personal cargo containers. So you will have a large cargo container. Let me see if we can get the picture here. And you can sort of see that it's just filled with stuff. So you'll be able to open this thing and throw a bunch of your inventory in there, because inventory is about to become revoltingly physicalized. Like everything will be physicalized, or it'll be stored in local inventory on a station. And in order to grab it, you're not just going to reach into a bag of holding and throw it on your body. You're going to have to go to your persistent hangar, have it come up on the cargo elevator, and then you'll have access to your stuff. It'll be on that cargo elevator. So no more magical bag of holding when this comes in. So you'll need those cargo containers. Let's go on. Bloodshot Ridge. We know about that. Let's look at the picture. Okay, so that's clearly on Microtech. Kind of cool. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully it's not just going and blowing people up. And this one is Maker's Point, which I think they said was Hurston. Sure looks like Hurston. Kind of a nice one. Not bad. You can sort of see the little beds there. Nice. I thought they had more than one, didn't they? Let's go back and look. No, it's just Bloodshot Ridge and Maker's Point and then spawn locations. All right, so maybe not. I would be shocked if it's just those two. I would imagine there's a couple more that they're hiding out there that you're just going to find if you're taking box missions or something. Multi-career spawn locations, there's the other one. So we're getting a couple ships this time. Apos on Tokiai looks like it's passed its review test. It's still tentative here, but they got 2 weeks to clear that hurdle, and then the X1, all the versions of that. I do have this bike. It's one of my favorite space bikes, so I'm hoping they roll that out. They usually roll out small ships at the end of the year as just kind of gimmies, so that would certainly fit that bill. Wouldn't be shocked if we finally got that Cutter Expedition, if that actually is a thing. Are we going to be getting a big ship? I kind of doubt it, but maybe. I mean, they really surprised us or at least surprised me. I don't know. Maybe Pipeline called this one months ago and I just didn't hear about it. But yeah, they rolled out a bunch of ships at IAE. Sulian, the AA Storm, kind of rolled both of those in secret. We got the Argo SRV finally, C1. So yeah, of course, Sulian. So yeah, we got all those, but that is it for the release view. Let's head on over to the progress tracker. All right, so here we are in the progress tracker. How I set this up is I click on deliverables. It defaults to the teams, and you can get a lot of context on something with the teams. If there's something that seems like a really big feature and you click on teams and you look at it and there's one person working on it, it's probably not something that's going to be released imminently. That person's probably just doing pre-work and then they're going to drag on more devs. But it just gives you a little more context. Again, one of the reasons that I stopped doing my roadmap in graph form is we're missing a lot of context for a lot of these features. So coming to really solid conclusions or giving information like, oh yeah, this one's 100% done, it was just kind of misleading people. But anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and get into this. So basically, I've kind of pre-gamed this and broken open things I want to talk about. Some things I have a lot to say, other things I don't. So actor status 2. Talked about this a lot through the year. I think that this is probably going to be medical gameplay tier 2, among other things, because it includes DNA integrity, medical insurance, cybernetic limbs, and cloning. What that tells me, they will probably drop this with Pyro. And if you get, resurrected in Pyro, it might not be as clean a process as if you were to get resurrected in or regenerated in, say, Orison. Like very clean medical facilities versus a chop shop. They can do it, but you might be coming back without an arm or a leg or something like that, and that's where the cybernetic limbs come in. And it might start cutting down on your DNA integrity each time you get it. So if you're going to Orison, you'll have, say, 20 respawns. If you're respawning in Pyro, you might get 5 until you have to make a new character. So something to keep in mind. I don't think they'll roll it out that harsh immediately, but that would be the end goal, something that they talked about back in 2013 or 2014. Additional derelict settlements, again, they're wrapping here. You're going to see a lot of things that are wrapping here right around week 12. That doesn't mean that they're actually finished, especially with this particular deliverable. This thing will probably be going for years and years and years and years, just because they'll roll it out to us in parts. And this is sort of what I was talking about on the other end of the spectrum, is you can have a deliverable that's going and going and going, and you're still getting stuff from it. They'll roll it out to us in modules, and each time they make a new settlement, each time they roll out a new ship, they're going to be making a derelict settlement out of it, probably. But these are very important for the social aspects of the world, so they're going to keep making asset packs, and eventually the thought would be that you could procedurally generate them the way CIG likes to make these sort of assets, or at least like these settlements and stuff. is you kind of have it procedurally flop it down, and then you have an artist come in and tweak it, and then that's the way it looks. So the bigger the asset pack, the more that it can kind of expound upon that. But derelict settlements, the other thing is that this is just as far as they have sprints planned. Then they go on vacation here in week 13. Then they're usually out for about 3 weeks, and then they start doing their planning sessions. So you may see lines going out to here, but they're not actually working. They're kind of planning out what they're going to do in the next year. Usually around the end of January or the start of February, we start seeing what the real plan is. And usually by March, we have a pretty good idea. Okay, this is what they're kind of focusing on this year. I have a feeling with Squadron 42 kind of hitting the end game and the replication layer and server meshing kind of hitting its stride, it'll kind of remove a lot of barriers for some of these devs. So a lot of these things that have just kind of been finished for years but sitting on a back burner, they'll be able to pull them out of mothballs, blow off the dust, and possibly start rolling them out to us. I mean, I don't think we'll get everything in the next year, but we probably will start getting more content than we have certainly in the last 2 years. That said, additional derelict settlements, we'll get at least a couple in the next patch. Expect us to get a derelict settlement, at least one in every patch from here to infinity, I would assume. The Idris, a lot of people are talking about getting the Idris by the end of the year. I don't know why. They have said they're going to drop the Idris for us when they drop Squadron 42, which I will assume will be Q4 of next year, of 2024. So in 2024, at the end of the year, we'll get the Idris. So the ship is done. They're just not going to give it to us until Squadron 42 is released. So put a capper in that one. Aegis Retaliator Gold Standard. We know they're working on that. John Cruz said a couple months back that they've finally solved the whole issue with modules being able to come in and out. In the Retaliator, they've always said it's going to be the first one that they're going to give us. So that's kind of cool. We saw it in the whole scroll where they're kind of going through ships are going to be releasing the next year. I'll have a little bit more to say about that in a bit. But actually, what the hell? We'll talk about it now. So here we go. This was the side scroll that I was talking about. So this ship right here, I thought was the Sulian. Even though it looks pretty Mirai-esque, I was like, well, it wouldn't make sense that Mirai, which makes tiny racers like the Razor and the Fury, would make something that is freelancer sized. But this is one of those that Pipeline is saying is a Mirai heavy fighter, which I don't know. That makes about as much sense as the Crusader Ares, the Ion and the Inferno. It's just you've kind of got a manufacturer that's kind of got this focus, and then you just do something out of left field that has nothing to do with that focus. Maybe a long range racer, but they're saying heavy fighter. Who the hell knows? So here's the Retaliator I was talking about. They've got it in the side scroll too. So yeah, Retaliator sometime in the next year. I mean, it certainly looks, they've had it done here forever. I'm sure they're going to come back and do another pass on it. They need it for Squadron 42, so it's a priority. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be getting that pretty soon. I would assume a good time to drop the Retaliator Gold Standard on us would be probably Invictus, so like March of next year, I would think. Wouldn't be shocked to see the tally then. AI arcade machine. So this isn't because I'm really hyped up about the AI being able to play arcades. I just kind of have this as kind of a general marker for AI, because with the replication layer working and server meshing coming along, the servers shouldn't be under so much stress, and the AI should start acting a lot more like they should. So they should start doing more of these things rather than just T-posing on chairs. With that said, some of the ones that I would expect to see pretty soon, AI ground vehicles. Surprisingly, this one isn't a Squadron 42 asset. I would fully expect it to be, but imagine coming down on a wreck site where you've got to eliminate the nine tails, and you're kind of sneaking up with your sniper rifle, and all of a sudden they come rolling out in a storm or a cyclone turret version. You kind of have your hands full. So yeah, AI and ground vehicles, and even then you might pull into a little town and they're driving around mules and unloading things. So I mean, it could be kind of cool. No guarantee that's actually happening, but I would expect the AI to start acting more natural. AI landing improvements. This is one that they talked about a lot at the beginning of the year, where the ships are kind of coming in, and I'll put it so you can see my hands because it's very important. They come in for a landing and then they take off. That's kind of what this is. Way back in the day, it might have been a PTU patch. They actually had work, I think it was when Lorville was first dropping, and they just couldn't get it to work right, but they had ships kind of coming in, landing, and taking off. Maybe I dreamed it, but I think it was when Area 18 dropped. Whatever. Anyway, they had it working for like half of one patch or like a PTU patch, and they pulled it just because I think that it was just too much resource strain. But imagine flying into like Area 18 and there's all of these NPC ships coming and going from the spaceport or any of the big cities. It would just add so much more life to the game. So things like that I'm really looking forward to. Again, vehicle perception by the AI is a big one. Right now, if you're in a ground vehicle, sometimes what I'll do is take a Cyclone or an Ursa and just drive up to a bunker, and I can shoot out all of the turrets because the turrets don't recognize that that ground vehicle is actually a vehicle. That'll change. They will start shooting at you. Oh, and don't try to do that on a space bike because they do perceive space bikes. AI EVA tech, yeah, you might start getting boarded. Like if you do the 890 jump mission out in space, they might actually come over and board your ship. Could be kind of cool. Or in other situations, you might be waylaid by NPCs or pulled out of quantum. But with a quantum snare, and they might actually board your ship. EVA tech for the AI is a big part of that. Anvil Legionnaire, again, we know they're working on the Legionnaire because there it is. It's actually bigger than I thought it would be, although it holds 10 Marines, so it makes sense it'd be a little bit bigger. We won't see this one until hacking gameplay is in, because that's kind of this thing's draw, is it hacks the ship that's boarding and tells its docking ring to, hey, I can land with you. So we won't see this until we see hacking. On the upside, I don't think hacking's that far away. So Anvil Legionnaire's on its way. Liberator. This is one that I talk up a lot. Right now, this is just vehicle concept. They haven't actually started building the ship. But given how simple the ship is and its geometries and its interiors, it's only a 3-person crew ship, so, or a crew of 3 persons. So it doesn't look like it would be overly difficult to create that ship. And I think the Liberator would be a big win for Pyro, because now you could start carrying around those starters for other people. So you could actually have a whale. The Liberator costs $575, I believe. You could have a whale just kind of carry around people, like, hey, I've got a prospector, but I can't make it across the system. An Anvil Liberator says, or Liberator captain says, hey, I'll take you across, pay me $50K, and does it. Very cool ship. They have not said anything about it, and as far as like priorities of ships and the backlog, the Liberator is fairly new, so don't hold your breath for that. It would just make sense. And Tokiai, again, we're probably getting that in December, so a couple weeks from now we'll see this bad boy, which is kind of cool. AR and map system rework. This one could drop imminently, so I mean, I don't think we'll get it in 322, but by March of next year, yeah, the window's open. If they have some sort of patch in February, I could see them dropping on this. It looked like it was pretty far along at CitCon, but then again, CitCon is kind of a polished experience, so hard to say. But I mean, the last time they worked on this was August, it looks like? Question mark? I'm sure they've been working on it since then. So I think this might be lying, but AR map marker system rework, yeah, soon, but actually soon. Like I would expect it in 1 to 5 months rather than like 9 months. So I would expect it at the beginning of the year rather than the end of the year. Artificial gravity, I would expect this to drop with the engineering game loop, which I think if I had to take an absolute shot in the dark, Argo SRV is another one they dropped. Artificial gravity engineering, if I had to take a guess, probably around June. Wouldn't be shocked if they rolled it out then. I would think that they're going to drop Pyro on us if they're pretty confident in how the replication layer is working. We'll probably get a patch in March with that. I would not expect them, I've been saying this for a while, I would not expect them to drop a major game loop at the same time they drop Pyro, just because it would be too many things that could break at once. I would expect them to drop server meshing and Pyro, and then the next patch, provided that's working and they don't have to do a cleanup patch to get it working, engineering, bounty hunting, those would be my next bets for what would be there, and artificial gravity would be part of that. Boreal Stalker. So they didn't show this. They did show the, was it Kazi Grazers? The space cows with their little egg sacs, which is both disgusting and awesome. I definitely want a few of those. But Boreal Stalker, with working AI, these things, these assets, the Boreal Stalker, the Stormwall, and the Kazi Grazer have been done for a while. It's just a matter of rolling them out. I wouldn't be surprised if we got the Stormwall first, just because it's the least interactive one. Apparently you can land on them and mine minerals. They mentioned that at one time. But yeah, Boreal Stalker, we might be seeing that, and I would not be shocked if CIG snuck that into a patch. So people that land on Microtech and are just dinking around, all of a sudden this 14-foot tall Yeti creature attacks them. Could be kind of cool. Bounty hunting. So this is the other one that I think probably hot on the heels of Pyro. Bounty hunting would make a lot of sense because in Pyro, a bounty hunter would be very much on their back foot. They would be back against the wall. It is dangerous in Pyro if you're a person that captures people that have broken the law. Yeah, good luck. So bounty hunting, I could see that one coming next year again. I could see it dropping around June if engineering doesn't, or if they might pop in bounty hunting and engineering the same one. I don't know. Sort of depends. A lot of functionality has to be added to the Moby-Glass for bounty hunting, but it does for engineering too. So who knows? Building interiors. This is one that they were talking about a lot at last year's CitizenCon, so 2022. But we haven't really heard anything. They're still working on 148-week sprint. If I remember right, there's 3 teams working on this, but there's not a lot of devs working on this. This is the Montreal studio, which has a reputation for busting things out quick. So we might start getting the building interiors, which would expand the playable area of the game, especially in cities, by a lot. Cave improvements. So far we have the sand cave, but we know they have other caves out there, so I'd expect to see more of those start popping in. Think like ice caves and rock caves. They're going to redo the rock caves. They mentioned that. Other than that, maybe underwater caves. Who knows? I'll talk about this in a minute because there's a better deliverable to talk about that. character creator. Even though this one is just Squadron 42, we're getting the hair, so we know they're working on this character creator. We'll probably be getting this character creator sooner rather than later. They've mentioned we're getting the hair in December, so sometime around here. I wouldn't be shocked if we get all of those new faces by March. I would not think they'd sit on that very long. The character creator at this point is kind of dated and clunky. The new one looks much better, and it looked like it was pretty far along, so I wouldn't be shocked if we get that one pretty soon. Charge drain. So if you are one of those people that is like a cargo monkey or something, and you just use your tractor beam all the time and all the time and all the time, charge drain is not your friend. What that'll do is that multi-tool will have a battery, and I am assuming as you're moving heavier stuff, it'll drain that battery faster, and you'll be popping out batteries and putting in new ones constantly. But you'll be able to charge them too, which is part of the charge drain. See what I did there? I can read. Crusader Spirit. So we now have the C1 and the A1. We are missing the E1, which is not jumped back on here yet. Obviously, that one's going to be waiting for the passenger game loop. Still a little ways to go on that one. Once you see the Crusader Spirit jump back on this, that means they're working on the E1, and they think they're going to get the passenger gameplay going, just as something to look forward to. Cutting Tier 2. So this is one that we've seen demonstrated a few times over the years. We've never really been able to use the cutter. You can kind of use it if you go on the destroy the drug lab motion. You can blow up the boxes that way. It's not super useful, but it doesn't use ammo until charge drain is in. So you can, it takes longer than using like a grenade launcher, but you're not wasting ammo either. But there are, and you used to be able to open doors. I don't know if you can still do that, like doors on ships. You could use the cutting tool and inflict enough damage that the door would open. They might have fixed that, but eventually you'll be able to free-form cut certain surfaces and also like bust off locks on doors and stuff like that. Looks kind of cool. Again, I would expect this to drop with charge drain, but when could we see it? I would assume pretty soon. I mean, this is something that's kind of been done for a while, at least like a month or so, and they kind of keep jumping back and tweaking it. But it's a Squadron 42 asset, so they need to lock that bad boy in at some point. Disarray ammunition and distortion propagation. So distortion is a type of weapon. So you've got laser, ballistic, missile, and distortion. So that is a whole type. Disarray ammunition is just a type of ammunition. So you can actually say, rather than having the armor-piercing rounds on this ballistic Gatling gun, I'd rather have disarray ammunition, so I'm shutting the other ship down with the ballistics. Kind of cool. When could we see all of these weird ammunition types? Soon, I would guess. Next 3 to 6 months. Doesn't strike me as a hugely difficult thing to do. DNA textures update. This one's been done for a while, 317. So March of 2020 or May of 2022. But I would expect us to be getting the new heads, kind of like I was saying up here. I was opening that one just kind of a placeholder. Right there, character creator. All of those new heads are going to be coming in eventually, pretty soon. Drake Cutter Scout. Hopefully we'll be seeing that expedition sometime soon. Drake Cutter's a great little starter. EVA Tier 2, I would expect to see that pretty soon. So next 3 to 6 months. I would even say 3 months. I would expect to see EVA pretty quick. Fire Extinguisher, Fire Hazard, that's something that they will almost certainly drop with the engineering game loop. So I would put that like 6 to 8 months, just on what's based in my headcanon on that, on when they're going to drop Pyro in the engineering game loop. So June-ish of next year, I would expect to start seeing that. FPS radar scanning, again, with all of the new UI things, I would expect all of those to drop in one patch. Just they're mostly the UI team, so the UI team would be able to fix it, as opposed to trickling them out and this thing broken, this thing broken, this thing broken, this thing broke. Just kind of hit them all with this is a list of the bugs associated with this, and then they can just start knocking them all out at once, as opposed to, woo, we got that done. Oh, now we got 20 more, as opposed to that. So I would expect all the UI things to come out at once. FPS, radar scanning, Mobiglass, the new visor HUDs, the MFDs, that map, the 3D maps, and the star map. I would expect all of those to roll out in the same time. I was hoping for 322. It doesn't look like it's going to be in 322, so 323 or 4.0, that would be kind of a good one to roll out with Pyro, because the UI team isn't as involved with the server meshing and stuff like that, so it doesn't take them off their game to do something else. Freight elevators. This is what I was talking about before with, these are the physicalized elevators. You want to have your stuff, you buy cargo as opposed to just having it magically appear on your ship. It's going to be in local inventory on the station. You'll hit the button on your cargo elevator. It'll bring up your cargo. You'll have to manually load it onto your ship. You'll have to manually unload your ship onto a cargo elevator and send it down to local inventory for a station or sell it. So same thing both ways. This will also be how you interact with your personal inventory on a station or location. Gatok Railin. So they did an interview on a Friday show with the ship team. God, I want to say it was around June or July. Might have been August, something like that, a few months back. And they let it slip that they're working on the Gatok Railin. So I assume part of that work was for the Sulian, or they came up with enough asset packs that they're kind of like, we can actually build another ship out of this, and we've got this really cool concept for the Railin that we never used. Let's just make a tiny ship and see how these things work. And now they've got an asset pack to use with the Railin and kind of design concepts that they can use, a style guide. So the Railin might not be that far off, although it's not a small ship. I think it's somewhere between a Constellation of Starfarer in size, so kind of a big ship, but not super complex. But it's on the horizon. Will we be getting it next year? Don't know. Maybe. I mean, it wasn't in this fly through, but then again, neither was the Sulian, neither was the Tumble Stank or anything like that, so who the hell knows. Gatok Sulian, obviously we got it. Gray Cat industrial tool. So there's a lot of these industrial tools. So what those are, we actually do have the tractor tool now. If you go to any of the L1 stations, it's the big one that's kind of a bazooka. Looks like it has a Tron disc on the front of it, and you can move heavier things around. The salvage tool and the mining cutter tool. Did they have a miner tool? I don't think they had a miner tool. Sidnus mining droid, I do want that. But that has nothing to do with this. So they don't have miner. They do have an industrial cutter, which I assume you'll be able to use in salvage to cut up ships. That would probably be a pretty nasty weapon too. They'll probably balance it by saying if a ship's shields are up, it wouldn't cut through it. But if you're inside a ship, I don't know. But these are the big ones. Those aren't the hand tools. Gray Cat STV, the Steve's been out for a while. One of the ones that we know is out there is the Gray Cat RTV, which looks like a Jeep. So we'll probably be seeing that at some point in the next year. We know it was pretty far along in the concept. Hacking, there's a few things out there that are waiting for hacking. Hacking had 127 weeks, so basically that is almost 2.5 years of dev time was spent making hacking. They haven't worked on it for a while, so Q2, so around June was when they stopped work. I would assume they're going to pick that back up. It is a Squadron 42 asset, so clock's ticking. So if it's not done, I would assume they're just kind of doing polishing. We should be getting that one sooner than later because there's a lot of things in bounty hunting. We can't have the Legionnaire without hacking. There's containers that you have to be able to hack. So hacking, just given the number of teams that worked on this and the amount of time they put into this, I've been saying for a while that hacking might be a game loop all on its own. So you might have someone for your group that is straight up hacker man with the power glove. Their whole job is to break the security on a ship so you can steal it, or a white hat hacker that's on your ship that prevents other people from hacking it and getting on. We don't know how complex it'll be. It might be Pac-Man. They said that they wanted to do things where it's strings of code, but who knows? Who knows? A lot of games do hacking different ways. I'm sure CIG will come up with something that's creative, if nothing else. Hopefully it's not totally reinventing the wheel. Headhunters faction, that's Pyro faction. We know a little bit more about them now. They are one of the gangs that instead of the tattoos, they have armor sets that get progressively more complex. So that'll be cool. Look forward to looting those guys. Incendiary ammunition, this is another ammunition type. This is one that it had like a 5-week sprint and then it jumped out to 20. So will it jump again? I don't know. Ammunition types, it seems like that's more a particle system, and like weapon feature team is working on it. Doesn't seem like it would be super complicated. Inventory system. This is just to kind of talk about the inventory system. This one I think was released 2 or 3 years ago, so this one isn't it. But they definitely have a new way of interacting with your inventory that they showed off at CitCon, so I just wanted to mention that. Jump points, obviously going to drop with Pyro. Life support, that's going to drop with engineering. Lockable containers, this one's been done for a while, but again, hacking will enable you to get into those. So mag stripping and refill, this is another kind of cool one that we've been hearing a lot about. I haven't actually seen a lot about it. I was expecting to see more of this at CitCon. They did mention that you could reload from your backpack automatically. It just takes a lot longer, but certainly not longer than opening your inventory, selecting the ammo and moving, or the magazine, and moving it to a location on your person, closing inventory, and then reloading your weapon from that. This is going to be faster than that. So, not a perfect world. It would be nice if you had an empty magazine, or one with like 4 rounds in it, one with 10 rounds in it. You could take the 4 and put it in the 10 and have 14 in an empty one that you could then fill up to 15 or whatever. I don't math. Map and radar system rework, again, another UI thing that I would expect to see sooner than later, probably within the next 3 months, I would hope. Master modes, they already had this on the PTU in Arena Commander, so that one definitely sooner than later. Don't think we'll be getting it for 322. Let me look real quick. Yeah, it doesn't look like they had it in 322. I think I would have remembered that, but it's been a long day. But yeah, master modes, we'll be getting that pretty soon. That'll totally change the way that we fly. MFD rework, another UI thing. I would expect them to drop all of those at once, probably with Pyro. Military multi-tool, we did see this one at the sort of new vertical slice. I didn't know what would be different about a military multi-tool, but apparently you could switch it between modes. So not only, unlike the Grey Cat multi-tool where you have to switch out the head on it in order to change it from cutting to mining to whatever, that one, it's all just built in, so you just kind of change its mode directly without having to change anything on it. Pretty cool. If I can get one of those outside of Squadron 42, I'm definitely going to, and they will almost certainly do that. Mirai Fury, again, I just kind of wanted to mention that according to Pipeline, the giant weird ship that I thought was the Sulian and looked a lot like a Mirai ship. According to them, it's a heavy Mirai fighter. I would hope it's a long distance racer instead of a heavy fighter, because why would a racing group make a heavy fighter? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'll probably still get one. Moby Glass rework, again, UI. I would expect it sooner than later. New interdiction scenarios. This is one I always like to point out. It's one of those that we will be getting new interdiction scenarios like we're getting the new derelict settlements. Every time they can think of a new one to roll out. One of the ones that I thought would be dropping this year and didn't was minefields, but they might be, because they've had space mines as a deliverable for a while. They will probably be rolling that out with Pyro. I wouldn't be shocked if there's minefields and Pyro. So you're going to get dragged out of Quantum into a minefield. So yeah, I look forward to that. New missions, cargo hauling. I was thinking this would kind of be a 321-1 or 322 thing, but it looks like it's probably going to be next year, so next 3 months or so. Cargo hauling kind of needs more. It uses the freight elevators, so whenever we get the freight elevators, that's when we're getting these missions, or shortly thereafter, so 3 months, I would guess. Data heist, I believe, yeah, that one was 321. I don't know why I have that one open. I was about to say, we got that one. Restoration contracts, so this is the reverse of salvaging, where you're trying to strip a ship down. Now you're trying to build it up and get it flyable from soft death, because technically a ship that is soft death just needs new components and it'll fly again. And that's what this one is. So this is also the first version, this is tier 0 of the repair game loop, which is pretty exciting. When are we getting it? 20 weeks seems short, but all of those mechanics are more or less in the game. 3 to 6 months, I think, would be reasonable. New missions, steal, recover cargo. So I'll just read this one here. Steal, recover cargo missions will see players recovering and or stealing cargo from both derelict and active ships, then hauling the cargo to its intended destination. And they were also mentioning that that would be from other players too. So this will be PvE, but there will also be PvE missions that'll do the same thing. I assume those would be the illicit missions, the illegal ones. But before we can get this one, we need the AI actually able to fly their ships around. So that'll be post-server meshing, post-pyro, think 6 to 9 months, maybe, at the outside. New player experience. So this one, again, the link was in the up above parts. They're rolling out a new server or a new player experience in Microtech. What I wish they would do is have you start in an elevator, the elevator opens and you're in a hangar, and whatever ship is your starter ship is sitting in the hangar. But they say, hey, in order to fly out of here, we need you to pass like a competency test first. And you go down, you get in a simulator, the little simulator pods they have, and you go through a flight test. And then once you've passed the flight test, or it kind of walks you through the whole thing about flying, then you get in your ship and you go out into the verse. I think that that would be way easier. And while you're in your hangar, you learn how to interact with things. So you walk out into the room that overlooks your ship and you learn how to pick things up and hit buttons and crap like that. I think that that would be a much better new player experience, because then you could have the player start anywhere and you don't have to make one for every single location. That is going to take forever. Look at all the teams that are involved here. That is just chewing up dev time. Like, just make something generic that you can plug and play at any location. Like if somebody wants to start at some obscure station, it would work there too. Just saying. Origin 600. So this is one that I was really expecting to hear about, and I was expecting to see something about it on this little side scroller, but nothing. So the 600i, they've gone radio silent on it since like midway through 2022, I think. No, the beginning of 2022. So they worked on it for 17 weeks and they went, not yet. I was working on the theory that they're going to roll it out to us with the X1. Clearly not. So the 600i, I think they just kind of put most of the other ships on ice. They're going to go through and update all the RSI ships. Don't be surprised the Constellation gets a pass. But yeah, 600i on ice for right now. Hopefully later in the year they get more devs spun up. They could start working on that backlog a little bit. Merchant Man. Origin G12. Should be getting this one by March of next year, I would think. This one's about Cyclone size, but it has an enclosed cockpit, which is nice. Origin X1. We're getting it in roughly 2 weeks, which is pretty cool. I've waited for that bike for a long time. Orson mascot suit. So I opened that because I don't know how many of you are watching this. The Molly goes to Orson, but if you look,
this costume, I mean, how adorable. I'm on this shuttle thing, guys, way less.
I can't listen to her for too long or I will shatter my teeth, grinding my teeth so hard. But anyway, they've got the Orson mascot out there. We know they have the asset done. Once the AI is acting more natural, you'll start seeing stuff like that because Orson is basically Disney World that makes weapons like Disney World. Outpost Homesteads, Independent Outlaw, dropping with Pyro. Persistent Habs, I would expect to see that with Persistent Hangers. At some point, it's just with your stuff becoming more and more physicalized and them sort of removing the bag of holding assets. Persistent Habs, Persistent Hangers, that'll be it. Physical damage and breakability, that's Maelstrom. We saw that in action at CitCon. So expect to see more of that. Physics with rope simulation. So this is one, I think they have one dev working on this, but he worked on it for like 85 weeks. They haven't talked about it at all, but it's ropes interacting with pulleys, improve general stability, and enable development of new gameplay mechanics. Who the hell knows? I want to see what they're doing with them. We know they did a lot with cloth physics. I would assume it's kind of the same thing. Plasma ammunition, another ammunition type that we should be seeing sometime relatively soon, I would think. Visor HUD. Again, another UI element. I think we'll get them all at once whenever we get them. Pyro would be a good bet. Prone, there's a whole stack traversal options that we haven't seen. Traversal animations. Prone, ladder climbing, swimming, sliding, EVA. All of those should be coming to us pretty soon. We already got mantling, which was kind of cool. But it was kind of my theory, kind of like the UI stuff. I thought they'd drop them all at once. Instead, we just got mantling. So I don't know what the problem is there. Maybe something with their animation rig that they're working on. They're not 100% confident with it. But it would be real nice, especially the EVA, to get the new EVA. Prone, the new one looks better. They showed it off at CitCon. And all of those traversals, they showed the sliding and all of that. So I would expect this pretty soon. They look pretty well polished, so next 3 months or so. Pyro space stations, obviously, we're getting that with Pyro. All of the Pyro assets. Quantum simulation. So this is one that a lot of us were expecting to see an update from Tony Z at CitCon. But we haven't really heard anything. We know they're still working on it. I would assume this is one of those that Tony Z is being pulled off of Quantum for two reasons. One, they're waiting for server stability to hit the point where there's not as much load on the servers, and then they'll implement quantum. But Tony Z's group is also probably doing a lot of the back end stuff for Squadron 42, since that is all NPC driven except for the single player. So Tony Z is probably working on that. That's probably why we didn't hear about him this time, or hear about his baby this time. Quantum travel experience. So again, whoops, didn't mean to close that. Quantum travel experience is not the quantum simulation. So quantum simulation is the whole background economy. Quantum travel is moving at 10% the speed of light. And we did see their new VFX for moving into quantum. And I didn't know that they needed to fix that until I saw the new one. And it looks a lot better. So Rastar is both the system that CIG uses to make structures and bases and stuff like that. But as you saw at the end of CitCon, it is also what we will use to construct our own bases and outposts. Pretty cool stuff. They said everything that they were showing off in CitCon, they're hoping to get to us in the next year. So in theory, we will get the first pass of base building within 2024. So don't start holding your breath, but kind of cool. Recipes, this kind of goes along with the whole construction thing, but also the underlying economy. So this is if you need titanium and glass to make a thing, and there's less titanium to make the thing, then the sell price of titanium will go up, but the price of the thing will also go up. It'll become more rare. That's sort of what the recipes are, but I assume it'll also be not construction, but you know what I mean. Like using the resources on your ship. Basically, the reclaimer can do it right now, where you can produce a multi-tool and a tractor beam, and I think water or something like that. But yeah, that's part of what the recipe system is too. You can see SST, that's Tony Z's team. Refinery ships, yeah, we should be getting some refinery ships in the next year. They're dropping the Galaxy on us, which I believe has a refinery. I don't think they'll drop the Expanse on us, because my theory is 2024 is the RSI year, so they're going to kind of go through and update all the RSI ships. I think 2025 will be MISC, because a lot of the MISC ships, the Freelancer, the Starfarer, they need a lot of help. They're badly outdated. And I would expect the Expanse to be rolled out at that point. But we do have the Starfarer, which in theory has a refinery. But it doesn't have any of the mechanics because, again, it's an ancient asset. So I would expect the refinery to roll out with the Galaxy, which is probably the end of the year. Reputation hostility. So this is kind of a cool one. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to be able to fly around Pyro and land wherever they want. Because they're used to Stanton where that's the case. Stanton is a lawful system. Pyro is very much not. It's run by gangs. So if you're in good with one gang, you're definitely going to be out of sorts with the other. So it's Crips and Bloods territory. If you're in really good with the Crips, you're not going to be walking into a blood bar and having a drink. They're not even going to let you land if they're not trying to shoot you out of the sky when you approach. So reputation hostility. And if you're a bounty hunter, expect that to be everywhere out there. So bring your fuel tanks. Rescue transport mission. Again, this is another one that we'll need in order to do passenger missions. So when you see this one jump back on there, that's when the E1 is probably imminent. So just to read through this, taking advantage of AI follow behaviors to create missions where players transport customers from one location to another, along with prototype missions where a player must rescue imperiled clients from dangerous situations and escort them to safety. That is a cool mission type. So fingers crossed we're getting that one sooner than later. Again, there's a lot of these things that are awaiting server stability and the AI having the resources to act normal. So once that happens, expect to start seeing a lot of things like this in the AI actions rolling in with them. Resource management, again, that one rolling out with engineering. I still think that probably most likely place to drop that is the patch after Pyro, so like June. If they don't think Pyro is ready for prime time by March, like the replication layer isn't working, then they will probably roll out engineering in March instead and then roll out Pyro. I would assume it's going to be the other way around, though. It looks like they are, the way they were talking about it. I mean, Chris Roberts was in tears, so replication layer is looking pretty good, or he would have been a little more cautious about it. Roads, we have not seen roads. This is supposed to use the same tech that River does. So deformation and river tech to create road tools and visuals. No real reason to have roads right now, but if the AI start having the ability to drive around, it'd be kind of cool to be flying over the outback of Hurston and see like a land train driving across from one outpost to another to drop stuff off, or derelict settlement to Lorville or whatever. RSI Apollo, again, this is the year of RSI, so we will probably be getting the RSI Apollo. Now, I do think that this is the E1, or some version of it. The E1 actually has like a bigger step up here, but if you look at the Crusader ships, there's one that's angled almost exactly like this, and it looks very similar. But the E1 doesn't have an elevator, I don't believe, and it looks like this one actually has an elevator up here as well, so it has one for cargo and one up there. I think this is the E1. Another possibility is that they might have remade the Apollo to fit the more Dorito aesthetic, like the Zeus, the Galaxy, pretty much all of the more recent RSI ships have all taken on that sort of delta shape. So the Apollo's kind of an old school, looks more like a Connie than anything else. They might be redoing the way the Apollo looks to look more like that Dorito shape. Just a theory. I would, and not even a theory, just kind of a spitball, gee whiz, wouldn't it be cool? I think the RSI is probably going to retain its shape and look more like a constellation. That platform, something that's roughly freelancer size, well, now they've got the Zeus, so they don't really need that. But I wouldn't be shocked. Like, the vehicle content team took like a 12-week, or is taking like a 12-week sprint on the Apollo right now. That might be redesigning it into more of that deltoid shape, but we'll see. Polaris, in theory, getting it at the end of next year. So next CitCon, that'd be a very quick time to turn around a ship this large, but not unheard of. RSI Zeus, this one's freelancer. I would think that we'll probably get this one sooner than later. Think like June or September. Wouldn't be shocked if we got it for CitCon of next year. Would make sense. So salvage vehicle munching. So this is the one that I'm talking about with, they call it vehicle munching here, and they call it structural here. I am assuming that vehicle munching, especially since they say release 322, I am assuming that vehicle munching and salvage structural are the same thing, but it could easily be that structural is tier 0, and then vehicle munching, the real thing, is coming a little bit later down the pike. So we'll find out when we get it, like what all's entailed. I would assume eventually vehicle munching would be actually cutting up the ship and eating the whole thing. And there'd be considerations where if there's gases and stuff like that, like hard space shipbreaker, it would blow up if you tried to eat it, but we'll see. Security Network V1, again, this is one that's wrapped up in hacking and Ship security, I would expect this to drop with engineering because you'll be doing a lot of that on your ship. Yeah, and such things as doors and elevators. It'd be cool if some of that were player controlled. Like your engineer could say, you can only get through this door if you have this sort of security level. And then a hacker would have to hack their way past it. But you might get onto, say, an 890 jump and only have access to like the common areas. So you could you could transport players and NPCs, not have to worry about them blowing up your ship. Sliding, there's another traversal one. Space Whale, the Storm Wall, we're going to see that eventually. Squadron 42 polishing. So this is the one that I was talking about with Squadron 42. Expect this to stretch all the way up until they start printing the golden CDs for it. So, or the gold press of the game. Yeah, hopefully I would expect that to happen around September. So expect this one to stretch all the way to next September. Hopefully they drop it on us around, I would assume, Christmas time, but who knows? They dropped Starfield in September. Hopefully Squadron 42 does better than that. Swimming, another traversal. Tumbrel Storm, they snuck the AA on us. Utiliflex crossbow. Apparently there's some problems, like they wanted the pulleys and the ropes to work right on it, or the strings to work right on it. But it's been done for ages. They only did a 10-week sprint on it, which tells me there's more work to do. Just not a high priority. For those of you who don't know, the Utiliflex crossbow was a stretch goal. I believe it was the last stretch goal. Anyway, this one's run pretty long. I'll edit some of this down, but now I'm going to get into the unannounced things. I usually spend a lot of time on these, so this time I'm just going to kind of blow through it and show you the things that are out there. This one that's a 12-week vehicle concept sprint has been done for a couple of years now. My theory on this one is that some type of watercraft, like a boat. We know now from the vertical slice of Squadron 42 that they've got working boats, so it wouldn't shock me if they've got a boat and they're just kind of waiting on the water physics and stuff like that. Otherwise, we've got all of these, not underground facilities. A few of them have wrapped. If I had to guess, this one right here is the other cutter, and we're probably getting it with 322. Narrative team, we're not going to see that one until the vehicle concept team works on it. The rest of these are, nope, this one for 11 weeks. I think this one was the Fury LX, this 11-week one, and they just haven't moved it up, so I don't think that this one is still a thing. Otherwise, we've got this one here that's 23 weeks, again by Montreal, the same people that did the Cutter Scout. So if there's a Cutter Expedition, this is probably it. They do have a 28-week vehicle concept. That's probably the Arastra. I would assume that's the Arastra. The 15 weeks, what else did we get this time? Hang on. 15 weeks isn't a real big ship. I wouldn't be shocked. No, it wouldn't be the AA because that was straight to flyable. So there's something out there that 15 weeks is a medium-ish ship. Yeah, so there's something out there. There, I narrowed that down. Underground facilities, I would expect to see this one sooner than later. This is one that we've seen the asset. Looks like it's pretty far along. It is a playground in a box. They can basically just drop these things anywhere, and it's a whole city, a trade location, a raid location if you wanted it to be. Just adds a ton of life. Should be neat. They should be able to give you missions and stuff there too eventually. Vehicle names and serial numbers. So this is obviously something that was released back in 2021. They did it with 5 ships. Reclaimer, 600i, I'm forgetting a few. MSR, Carrick. I'm forgetting 1 or 2. The Corsair you could name if you got it at concept, but you couldn't rename it in this wave. but they got a lot of blowback. So I think what they said was, well, screw this. This isn't a priority. People don't need names of ships. So what I hope they do is that I would rather there were 3,000 Millennium Falcons running around the verse than me not being able to get the name for my ship because someone else did it. So I have to do name of my ship 0001 A, B, C, A, D, whatever. If they want to kind of lock it down so there's a limit, make it that it has to be registered at a certain location, and you can only have one vehicle of that name from that location. That would limit it. Or even star system, so you could only have 100 Millennium Falcons running around. Would be one way to do it. Anyway, vehicle names and serial numbers, that's something they should come back and tackle eventually. I just don't think it's a really big priority for them. Visor lens rework, another UI element. Weapon misfire and wear. So I've talked about this one. I'll drop down here. 0G push pull should come with the new EVA. Weapon misfire and wear. I've talked about this one a couple times. My only worry about this is we've seen how the weapons can become weathered and start misfiring and jamming up and stuff like that. They haven't shown how we fix them. And unlike ships that have always had repair integrated into landing, even back in the Cry-Astra days, we haven't had to do anything with weapons. So what the hell do you do with a weapon that's misfiring? Can I fix it myself? Do I put a multi-tool beam and spray it with RCM or something, or RMC? I don't know. So hopefully, along with the weapon misfire and wear, we have some way of fixing those weapons that drop at the same time. But they haven't talked about it. And gang, that's all I got for this one. I know it went long, so thanks for sticking around, and catch you next time.